The girl suddenly realized she might be trapped in the school forever, because every time she stepped outside the school grounds, she would end up right back in the boiler room. She tried over and over again, but no matter where she attempted to leave from, she always returned to the same place. Curious if there was some hidden secret here, she began to observe the boiler room closely. It was covered in bloodstains and marked with signs left by the police. She wanted to ask her best friend what was going on, but strangely, her friend treated her like she didn't exist. Even more bizarre, her friend had plastered missing person posters of her all over the school. Confused, she went to the gym, thinking that since there were a lot of people there, she might be able to ask around. But to her surprise, the students and teachers were actually holding a memorial service for her. Shocked, she was about to go over and ask, when a male classmate suddenly ran up to greet her.
The good news is it's only a matter of time till they realize you're dead.
Her name was Maddie, a student at this school, with a boy she liked and a few close friends. But one day after leaving her self-study class, she inexplicably became like this. The boy, whose name was Charlie, told Maddie she was already dead, and that this was simply her first day in this world. She just wasn't used to it yet. Seeing Maddie still unwilling to accept it, Charlie took her to the basketball court, because that was where more people like them, dead people, could be found. They were all wrongful deaths from decades of the school's history, including students, teachers, and even a janitor. Mr. Martin told Maddie that because they had all died unjustly, their souls were forever trapped in the school. He then asked Maddie to introduce herself.
But I don't know who did this to me.
Oh, you were murdered.
Welcome to the club.
Can we maybe exchange names first so Maddie feels a little more welcome?
I don't know exactly.
Exactly.
Look, they haven't found my body yet, but I know that there was blood on the walls of the boiler room, and I'm here now.
What Maddie said left everyone stunned, because her case was unlike anything they had ever seen. No cause of death, no killer, and no body found. Seeing their disbelief, Maddie took Charlie to the last place she had been before she died. That day, after leaving her classroom, she was supposed to meet her boyfriend Xavier in the parking lot, but he brushed her off, saying his phone had died. But when she returned to the stairwell, she found her boyfriend talking on the phone. She tried to take out her phone to capture evidence, but as soon as she pulled it out, her phone died. Just then, Xavier came up the stairs, clearly unable to see Maddie or Charlie. Soon after, Maddie saw that her missing person poster had been vandalized. Angry, she tried to rip it down but couldn't touch it at all. Charlie said that was normal, because they were in different worlds, and he urged Maddie to accept the fact that she was dead. But Maddie still didn't believe it and followed her boyfriend into the classroom. Once there, she was shocked to see Simon angrily confronting his classmates, because he refused to believe Maddie was dead, and since Xavier had done nothing after her disappearance, Simon suspected Xavier was behind it all. As his accusations grew, Simon and Xavier got into a physical fight. Simon grabbed Xavier's backpack, spilling its contents, and among them was Maddie's phone.
Why do you have Maddie's phone?
It was a shocking discovery. Hiding a dead girl's phone could only point all suspicion toward him. But Maddie still didn't believe her boyfriend had killed her, thinking instead that maybe Xavier was just trying to find out what really happened to her. Simon, however, was convinced Xavier was the killer and decided to make him pay. So he and Maddie's best friend Nicole blocked Xavier's path.
Stop! Knock it off! Stop it!
Seeing her friend and boyfriend at odds, Maddie couldn't stand it any longer and tried to run out of the school to follow them for clues. But to her shock, she ended up back in the boiler room again. Looking at the blood on the pipes, Maddie fell deep into thought, feeling as though she had remembered something. But the memory was so brief that she couldn't even see the killer clearly, nor remember how she died. Unable to leave the school, with no body found and no cause of death, Maddie was on the verge of breaking down. Days later, many people walked into the gym again, including Maddie's mother. Since there was no body to bury, they had to hold a vigil for her. But Xavier was stopped outside by the sheriff. Maddie wanted to hear what the sheriff had to say, and when she got to the door, she overheard something that left her stunned. Sheriff Baxter was Xavier's father, and he revealed the truth about Maddie's phone. It turned out that Xavier had been secretly seeing Claire from the cheerleading squad, and when he tried to text Claire to hang out, he accidentally sent the message to Maddie. So before Maddie could find out, he tried to secretly take her phone to delete the message, but then Maddie's accident happened.
I didn't know she wasn't coming back, Dad. All right, it's all right, come here.
Maddie was dazed, unable to believe that the boy she loved had betrayed her. That night, everyone carried candles for Maddie's vigil. The most heartbroken of all was Simon, who sat alone in the classroom, crying. Xavier was also taken away in a police car by Sheriff Baxter. However, as the night deepened, another twist emerged. When Simon stood by the window looking outside, Maddie appeared, and thanked him for liking her. Simon could actually see Maddie, a situation that utterly shocked Charlie, as a living person seeing a ghost was unprecedented. Maddie didn't care about anything else, quickly explaining to Simon that Xavier wasn't the killer. Just then, Nicole walked into the room, telling Simon the vigil was over and people were heading into the woods to search. Strangely, she couldn't see Maddie at all. After they left, Maddie urgently asked Charlie what was going on, but he had no idea, because none of the spirits trapped here had ever experienced something like this. Since he didn't know, Maddie ran out to try to ask Simon again. But to her surprise, once she reached the schoolyard, Simon could no longer see her. As Maddie crossed the boundary of the school grounds, she was sent right back to the boiler room. Confused, Maddie went back to ask the other spirits. As expected, none of them knew anything about her current situation. Determined to figure it out, Maddie sought out Simon again, hoping that while he could still see her, he could quickly find out the truth and locate her. Maybe she wasn't actually dead yet. Simon asked if Maddie remembered how she left the boiler room. With his prompt, Maddie seemed to recall something. She remembered fainting in the boiler room, then being awakened by an unknown liquid dripping on her, and upon waking, she saw blood splattered on the wall. Then she saw Xavier leaving the classroom, but the memory ended there. Simon immediately began searching through all of Xavier's lockers, but didn't find a single clue. With no other choice, Maddie led him to an abandoned auto repair shop at the school, a place where she often met Xavier when she was alive. She thought they might find some clues here. Sure enough, Simon found a piece of a phone. It turned out to have the exact same characteristics as Maddie's phone. After leaving the repair shop, they sat in the cafeteria discussing whether the fragment truly belonged to Maddie's phone. Just then, their English teacher, Mr. Anderson, walked by. Mr. Anderson said he also didn't believe Maddie was dead and hoped Simon wouldn't give up so easily. Hearing how much the teacher cared, Maddie thought perhaps Mr. Anderson could help. Having help was good, so Simon handed the fragment to Mr. Anderson. Meanwhile, the sheriff went home to find Xavier. He told Xavier that he was now the prime suspect because the police had unlocked the phone but found no data on it. It was as if it were brand new. He warned Xavier to stay home, not go out, and especially not go to school. But the rebellious Xavier ignored his father's orders. While his father was on the phone, Xavier slipped out on his bike and went straight to Maddie's house. Maddie's mother, Sandra, invited him inside, looking visibly worn and weary from Maddie's disappearance. Xavier had come to ask about Maddie's phone because he knew the one the police had wasn't hers, so he thought he might find it with her mother. But Sandra asked him outright if he had hurt her daughter.
Yeah, I heard her.
Meanwhile, Maddie and Simon continued anxiously discussing the clues. The discovery of the phone fragments meant Maddie's death had a reason, and that reason was likely hidden in her phone. So, on a rainy night, Simon sneaked back into the auto repair shop when no one was around. As expected, he found another phone fragment on the ground.
What are you doing here so late, Simon?
I came back to look for
Look for what? Maybe you should let the people in charge do their job.
Mr. Anderson appeared and led Simon out of the repair shop, telling him to go home and not tell anyone about what happened that night. When Simon asked why he was there, Mr. Anderson only told him to drive safely. The next day, Maddie and Simon discussed it again. They never expected Mr. Anderson to be connected to the case. Maddie had always respected Mr. Anderson. He was patient with her outside of class, even giving her his phone number so she could reach out if she ever needed help. But now, his unexplained presence at the repair shop suggested he might be involved. Maddie and Simon decided to investigate him. First, Simon enlisted Nicole's help. Nicole distracted Mr. Anderson outside while Simon slipped into his office and stole his car keys. Then he went to Mr. Anderson's car where he found that piece of the phone. The suspicion instantly shifted from Xavier to Mr. Anderson, but it was hard for Maddie to accept that her respected teacher might be her killer. So she went to Charlie. Charlie told her that for a situation like this, she might want to talk to another spirit named Rhonda, because Rhonda had been killed by her own counselor. Rhonda told Maddie that about 30 years ago, she had a guidance counselor who valued her greatly, helping her with her studies almost every day, and even applying for a degree at Berkeley University on her behalf. However, on the very day Rhonda successfully got into Berkeley, she had planned to share her joy with Mr. Manfredo. But to her shock, he demanded that Rhonda repay him. Rhonda refused, and that day, she never walked out of the counselor's office again. Hearing this, Maddie could hardly believe it. So she immediately looked up information on Mr. Manfredo. To her shock, she discovered that Mr. Anderson's office was actually renovated from that counselor's old office. Meanwhile, during self-study, Nicole noticed her photo on social media had been liked by Maddie, and Maddie also commented telling her to meet at their usual spot. Thinking Maddie might still be alive, Nicole rushed to the rooftop where they used to hang out. But when she arrived, she found nothing at all. While she was still puzzled, Xavier showed up there as well. His sudden appearance there, given that he was already a prime suspect, also startled Nicole. Xavier said he had indeed followed Nicole here, but not to harm her, because he also wanted to know the clues about Maddie's disappearance, and he had no knowledge whatsoever about the photo being liked. After hearing his explanation, Nicole chose to believe him. The question of who used Maddie's account to like the photo was set aside for now. After discussing it, they decided to team up with Maddie's mother to search the forest near the school for clues. Meanwhile, Maddie and Simon began searching Mr. Anderson's office, but after all their effort, they found nothing. In contrast, Xavier and the others actually found a clue in the woods. At the base of a tree, they discovered a parking ticket that belonged to Maddie, and on it was a man's footprint. This suggested that Maddie had likely been in the forest with this man. Back in the office, with no clues found, Maddie and Simon were about to leave when Mr. Anderson suddenly returned, forcing them to hide inside a cabinet. Mr. Anderson seemed very irritable, speaking on the phone to someone, and the conversation seemed to be about Maddie.
Well, you know what I shouldn't have done? I shouldn't have given Maddie that fucking money.
He kept talking as he walked out of the office. Maddie was confused. She had never asked him for money, so why was he saying he had given her money? While she was thinking about it, she suddenly noticed there was a hidden compartment inside the cabinet.
Why does a high school English teacher have a shitload of cash hidden in his classroom?
I don't know, Maddie. But I'm guessing it has to do with why you're dead.
To uncover the truth, Maddie decided to check Mr. Anderson's call history on his phone, but without his password, she couldn't unlock it. Seeing someone who might very well be her killer right in front of her, Maddie was desperate for evidence and called out to Simon to think of a way. But Simon, who was in the middle of an exam, ignored her. When Mr. Anderson went to adjust the blinds, the end-of-class bell rang. Simon seized the chance to hand in his paper and snatched Mr. Anderson's phone. Not knowing where Simon had gone, Maddie could only return to the basketball court, with the killer seemingly within reach. Maddie came to ask them if they knew anything about this Mr. Anderson. After all, these spirits had been trapped at the school for decades. A spirit named Wally said he once saw Mr. Anderson write the wrong name for someone at a fundraising event. As an English teacher, it was unlikely he would misspell such a simple word. But that was all. While they were stuck here forever, constantly watching a living person who had nothing to do with them wasn't realistic. So aside from Wally's discovery, there was nothing else. Seeing they had no further information, Maddie started questioning other spirits.
Okay, so if none of you have seen anything, then what about the others? Maybe one of the other ghosts has seen something?
Meanwhile, although Simon had gotten Mr. Anderson's phone without the password, it was useless. At that moment, Nicole found him and told him about discovering Maddie's ticket in the woods the night before, but said that the footprints they followed had disappeared once they reached a road. While it was a promising clue, Simon paid no attention. His focus was entirely on Mr. Anderson's phone. Simon impatiently tried to tell Nicole that he could see Maddie, but Nicole replied that she also thought she could.
I mean, not like out loud, because she's not really gone. I feel her just like you do. And I got us tickets to HorrorCon for tonight to prove it.
Their conversation was completely out of sync, and Simon, frustrated, ended it and walked away. But as they were talking, Miss Chung had been observing them from behind. After Nicole left, she approached Simon, offering comfort and saying that if he ever had any confusion or psychological trouble, he could come to her any time. Just then, Mr. Anderson's phone alerted that its anti-theft system had activated, and he was tracking its location. Simon quickly cut the conversation short and left the scene. Meanwhile, Nicole went to the school news club to join a live broadcast. The school had selected its Student of the Year, and the title went to Claire, so they needed to host a campus live stream. The broadcast was going smoothly, but during her speech, Claire suddenly brought up Maddie, saying that if she had realized in time, maybe Maddie wouldn't have met her fate. Hearing this, Nicole couldn't hold back and asked Claire if she knew something. But since it was a live broadcast, the director outside interrupted their conversation. Realizing she had said something wrong, Claire quickly denied what she had just said, but it was obvious she knew something. Meanwhile, while Maddie was relaxing with the other spirits, Simon suddenly came over to find her. They went together to the bus stop on the edge of campus. Since Mr. Anderson had now turned his attention to Simon, he wanted Maddie to keep an eye on him so that if anything happened to Simon, someone would notice, unlike what had happened to her. But Maddie told him he should talk to Nicole because they were in different worlds, and even if Maddie discovered something, she wouldn't be able to help. That woke Simon up, and he quickly went to find Nicole. After Simon left, Wally and the other spirits came to Maddie. They said Maddie might be able to go to the school theater to find another spirit, because she had been wandering there all along and might have seen something. Without delay, Maddie headed straight to the theater. The place felt strangely eerie, and she noticed signs of activity upstairs. Following the sound, Maddie went to the back of the theater. The spirit, Mina, didn't seem very welcoming. She said she had been staying there to prevent others from suffering the same misfortune she had in life. Yet no matter how hard she tried, no one ever thanked her, so she refused to answer Maddie's questions. Left with no choice, Maddie began looking around by herself. That's when she found a devil patch on the ground. This spirit named Dawn was one of the earliest souls trapped at the school, but since she wasn't quite normal, almost no one paid her any attention. When she learned Maddie was looking for clues, she offered to help. Dawn said she knew a group of spirits trapped here by a car accident, and since there was strength in numbers, Maddie might be able to get their help. But when Maddie met them, this band of spirits refused to pay her any attention, simply because she wasn't someone who understood music. Even so, Maddie still got an unexpected lead from them. Meanwhile, Simon ended up in trouble after all. Since his phone had been stolen, Mr. Anderson reported it to the police. As a result, Simon, now the prime suspect, was arrested. At the police station, Simon openly revealed that there was a large amount of cash in Mr. Anderson's office and said that Mr. Anderson might be the one who killed Maddie. But in response, the officer placed a phone fragment in front of him, saying it had been voluntarily handed in by Mr. Anderson, who claimed to have found it in Simon's desk. As for the supposed cash, they searched the entire office and found nothing. Worse still, in their investigation of Maddie's case with no new clues, they were now concluding that this had all been staged by Maddie herself. They believed she had faked the attack scene, swapped phones, and worked with Simon to frame the teacher. Her goal was to disappear, to leave the city. With Simon unable to help for the moment, Maddie turned to other spirits. Through researching the school's history, they discovered that the devil patch Maddie had found was the emblem from the school's old band uniforms, the same band involved in the car accident. To confirm this, they still needed to talk to Mina.
What do we do now?
Now we have to find some flowers.
After receiving flowers, Mina agreed to cooperate with Maddie. Maddie then showed her the devil patch and asked about Mr. Anderson. Mina said she had indeed noticed something, because Mr. Anderson had often been messing around in the theater before. Instead of answering directly, Mina opened a hidden passage in the theater floor. Soon, they all entered a secret room beneath the theater. Alongside normal stage props, there were large quantities of the school's logo patches, both new and old. Wally then found a shopping receipt. It was for a bulk purchase of old band uniforms, and the buyer's name was Mr. Anderson. When Simon returned to school, Maddie told him to report Mr. Anderson. With solid evidence, Simon was eager to act. He burst into a meeting of school leaders holding a new band uniform and told the principal that Mr. Anderson had faked them. He explained that Mr. Anderson had used funds to buy cheap, outdated old uniforms, then hidden in the theater's basement to swap the logo patches so they looked new, profiting from the price difference.
I can't prove he hurt Maddie. I can prove this.
Meanwhile, Maddie made another unexpected discovery. While the spirits were watching a movie in the basketball court, Dawn suddenly pulled out a phone and said she wanted to take a picture with Maddie. Maddie, curious, asked where she got the phone. Dawn said she had picked it up at the theater. Then Maddie wanted to know how she had unlocked the phone.
I know everyone's passcodes.
Wait, what do you mean everyone's?
In a flash, Maddie ran outside in a frenzy. She had to stop Simon before he left the school, because now she knew Mr. Anderson's phone password.
495-273! Check his call log. We need to know who Anderson called that night.
Meanwhile, Claire, preparing for a performance, received a phone call, but she hung up without even looking at it. This was something neither Simon nor Maddie had expected. Claire was not only the most prominent student in the school, but she had once been Maddie's closest friend. When they were young, they were like twin sisters who told each other everything. Though they had drifted apart because Maddie's boyfriend was also the object of Claire's affection, Maddie still didn't want to believe that Claire was a killer. After all, just days earlier at the school pool, a student had suddenly started drowning during a swim. Claire had jumped into the water without hesitation to save them. From her actions, she didn't seem like someone who could take a life, but for now, all the clues still pointed to her. To get to the truth, Maddie and Simon kept a close watch on Claire during her birthday party at school. Even though they tracked her every move, and Maddie even went through her handbag, they still found nothing suspicious. However, just as they were about to give up, Claire unexpectedly went to find Principal Hartman. Claire's father was one of the school's shareholders, so she wanted to ask about Mr. Anderson. Because of the band uniform issue, Mr. Anderson had already been suspended for a week, and the police still hadn't found any evidence against him. On top of that, Mr. Anderson had always been Claire's thesis advisor, so she wanted the principal to let him come back to teach. She said that if the principal didn't allow Mr. Anderson to return, she would have her father pull his investment from the school. While Maddie hadn't found any new leads, her mother had made a discovery. Sandra had been asking relatives to help search for clues, and just moments ago, a relative called to say they had found Maddie's backpack in their old family home. Because when Maddie first disappeared, the police found nothing there, and now the backpack suddenly appeared, suggesting she might not be dead. perhaps just hiding for some reason. This news gave Sandra a renewed sense of hope. When Xavier heard about it, he went to tell Simon. But Simon not only ignored him, he even began distancing himself from Xavier again, because he had discovered Claire's secret. Nicole was also confused and left angrily. Even though he had just lost 2 friends' help, Simon didn't care, continuing to look for clues on his own. He found Mr. South and asked for the keys to Mr. Anderson's office, claiming he had left his notebook inside and needed it to study for exams. Mr. South refused until Simon pretended the notebook belonged to Maddie and was the only thing he had left from her. Only then did Mr. South hand him the keys, warning that he had only 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Maddie, joining the other spirits for the annual school celebration, idly began doodling. That's when she saw her mother arriving at the school. Even when Maddie was alive, her mother almost never came to the school. She followed her mother to the director's office. Maddie saw that her mother had completely shed her usual gloom, now filled with optimism. From their conversation, Maddie learned that her mother believed she was still alive because of the backpack, and that this belief had given Sandra a reason to keep going. Seeing her mother like this moved Maddie deeply. But as she followed her mother out of the office, she suddenly noticed Simon in Mr. Anderson's office. Maddie suggested that maybe they should stop searching for clues. After all, seeing her mother able to face life positively now might be the best outcome. If they kept digging and it turned out Maddie had been murdered, it would only bring her mother unbearable pain. But Simon wasn't listening. He was pulling out all of Claire's theses. He had found that Claire's papers were copied from decades-old work, yet Mr. Anderson had still given her top marks. It was a solid lead, but Maddie didn't care, focused instead on her mother's renewed hope. What they didn't know was that Claire had gone to Mr. Anderson's house. She wanted to know what he had told the police, whether he had revealed anything, and most importantly, if he had mentioned her name. But Mr. Anderson treated her with unusual coldness.
Did you say anything about me?
I don't remember.
Meanwhile, Xavier wasn't willing to accept Maddie's mysterious disappearance. So at night, when no one was around, he quietly went to Maddie's family's old house. Though the place was empty, he didn't expect someone had arrived there before him. This person seemed intent on not being discovered by Xavier. Back at school, the celebration had begun. While everyone was enjoying themselves, Claire, the cheerleading captain, arrived late. She seemed flustered, as if she had just gone through something she didn't want anyone to know about. Even more, during a break, when the sheriff passed by her, she grew even more tense. And after he walked away, she ran to the trash can and vomited. Taking advantage of the crowd, Sandra and Ms. Fields handed out missing person flyers at the school. It seemed like an ordinary thing to do, but something strange happened. As the celebration was ending, Simon, Nicole, and Xavier all suddenly received a video on their phones. It was clearly filmed in secret, showing Claire and Mr. Anderson arguing. They talked about Mr. Anderson stealing money, and even mentioned that certain secrets had to be kept, or they would both be finished.
Did you guys get it too?
Yeah, why'd they send it to us?
As Maddie was focused on watching the school celebration, she turned around and was stunned to see her mother standing right beside her, staring directly at her. She thought for a moment that her mother could actually see her, but Sandra was only scanning the audience, hoping to spot her daughter's face. When she didn't see the face she longed for, she left in disappointment. At that moment, Simon suddenly walked up and showed Maddie the video of Claire. Maddie glanced at her mother's lonely figure and finally understood that her mother wasn't truly living optimistically. She was simply clinging to the hope that her daughter might still come home alive. But Maddie knew this couldn't go on forever, so she decided to find the killer, make her mother accept the truth, and help her move forward. Simon took Maddie to find Xavier, hoping to get some clues from him. Maddie asked Simon to teach Xavier how to reconcile with Claire, and they sent Claire a message. After that, Simon said he remembered something. Earlier that day, when he had borrowed the keys from Mr. South, just a second before entering the office, he had seen Mr. South watching a video intently. He suspected that the mysterious video they had received might have been sent by Mr. South. They went to question Mr. South, but he said he knew nothing, explaining that the video he was watching was actually of the boiler room where Maddie's blood had been found. After the police announced that Maddie wasn't dead, some people had gone there to write hurtful words. Maddie ignored the video and headed straight to the boiler room, with Simon following close behind. From there, they moved on to a long, unused storage room. To their surprise, there was a hidden passage in the wall, but after searching thoroughly, they found nothing. With this lead gone cold, they had no choice but to pin their hopes on Xavier. After all, he and Claire had been in a relationship before, and since Claire was still in love with him, she quickly agreed to get back together.
Claire said yes.
Told you it would work.
That's good.
Shit, what now?
Operation Claire, we crack her at the dance.
Operation Claire. We crack her at the dance.
Cracker? What does that even mean?
Because Claire was blackmailing Mr. Anderson, and they shared secrets beyond academics, Simon and Maddie were now almost certain she was the murderer. They just didn't have the evidence yet. That's why they needed Xavier to make his move at the school dance. The other spirits at the school would be attending too. Even though they were in different worlds, after so many years of monotony, they needed some entertainment of their own. Meanwhile, Claire found Xavier in the school locker room and invited him to be her date for the dance. And so, with everyone harboring their own motives, the school dance arrived as planned. Everyone turned up in their finest attire. Claire even went to Xavier's house to pick him up. But to Xavier's surprise, halfway through the drive, Claire suddenly pulled over and locked the car doors.
I want to talk.
At the same time, Maddie changed into an elegant gown and went to the dance. Sadly, as just a spirit, the only one there who could see her was Simon. But while they were at the dance, trouble struck at Maddie's home. Sandra was watching TV and eating popcorn as usual when she suddenly saw a shadow flicker past the window. She turned off the TV and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows to look outside. But she saw nothing, just as she thought it was nothing, and went back to watching TV. She quickly turned the TV off again, then carefully came out with a flashlight to check. Meanwhile, Xavier, with a bit of liquid courage, asked Claire about the old house. Claire froze for a second before asking if he was accusing her of fooling around there with someone else. Seeing her dodge the question, Xavier decided to wait for another chance. While getting drinks, he found Simon and Nicole. Xavier told them he needed to spend time alone with Claire because he could tell she was skilled at lying, and he needed to use some tactics, so he asked Simon and Nicole not to interrupt. Then he left, but just as he did, Simon and Nicole both received a message from Maddie's mother. Nicole quickly called to confirm if it was real. Given the situation, Simon, wanting to stay close for updates on Xavier, told Nicole to go alone to help Maddie's mother. To get information out of Claire, Xavier took a bold risk and brought her to the boiler room. Even when the phone was discovered, Xavier didn't panic at all. He turned the tables and began questioning Claire. He told her he knew she had swapped out Maddie's phone because she was the only one in the entire school with the resources to quickly get an identical phone. Then he showed Claire the video of her and Mr. Anderson, threatening that if she didn't say something today, he would hand it over to the police. Now Claire began to panic. With her secret nearly exposed, she admitted that she had accidentally discovered Mr. Anderson's smuggling contraband and had blackmailed him into giving her top grades on her papers. The money in Mr. Anderson's hidden compartment, she said, came from his smuggling. As for the phone, Claire explained that Maddie had unintentionally seen her and Mr. Anderson arguing that day, and she feared Maddie might have recorded video or audio. So she secretly swapped Maddie's phone and had Mr. Anderson destroy it. Later, to be safe, she even told Mr. Anderson to pay Maddie hush money. Claire insisted that was all she had done and that she truly knew nothing about Maddie's death, claiming it was only to protect her own high-status image at school.
Everything it spun out of control so fast. I didn't hurt Maddie. I don't know what happened to her, but it wasn't me.
Xavier later told Simon everything, saying he now believed Claire because of how sincere she seemed and because they still couldn't unlock Maddie's phone.
We were right, but Claire wouldn't hurt Maddie. She wouldn't. I believe her.
And just like that, Claire's trail went cold as well. Luckily, there was good news from Maddie's mother. When Nicole arrived to help Sandra, there was suddenly a knock at the door. Opening it, they were surprised to see Sheriff Baxter. The sheriff said they had a new lead. Police had followed up on the discovery of Maddie's backpack at the old house, and in a patch of grass nearby, they had found a blood-stained crowbar. Following the trail from the crowbar, they had tracked a suspect, Mr. South from the school. Sandra was devastated. Just moments earlier, she had been holding on to the belief that Maddie was still alive, so this news hit her like a thunderclap. While Maddie and Simon were discussing their next move, they overheard voices downstairs. Listening closely, they realized Principal Hartman was talking with someone about the discovery of the crowbar. What they didn't know was that Nicole, without even removing her dress, was out in the woods late at night, digging at something. A week later, Simon found Nicole. She hadn't shown up at school since the night of the dance. He sought her out for Maddie's case. Graduation was approaching, and they still hadn't found the killer. Mr. South was only a suspect, and if they couldn't identify the murderer before graduation, Maddie's spirit might be trapped in the school forever. While they talked, Simon noticed Nicole's graduation project was filled with drawings of Maddie.
I mean, it's cool. It's just a lot of Maddie.
What are you trying to say?
He set the sketchbook aside to comfort her. After all, they had investigated so many suspects, only for each one to be ruled out, and still had no answers. But after Simon left, Nicole gathered all the pictures of Maddie and burned them in the incinerator. Meanwhile, the other spirits were racking their brains to help Maddie recover her memories. None of them had ever seen a case like hers in all the decades they'd been trapped in the school, so they were at a loss. Just then, however, Wally mentioned he'd read in an old book that people with amnesia could regain memories through external stimulation.
Like, taste and smell and touch.
So, with everyone's help, they tried having Maddie smell strong scents, eat intensely flavored food, and even listen to grating, unpleasant songs. But nothing worked. Just as they were about to give up, Dawn spoke up saying she had studied psychology in life. She explained that when a person is hypnotized, it's like placing a "no one here" sign on their head, turning the body into an empty shell, leaving it open for another spirit to occupy. She added that she once had a friend who, after glancing at a stage light during a concert, could only speak Spanish when the show was over.
Well, memories are like spirits, guys. You just have to conjure the right one.
Meanwhile, Simon and Xavier were working on a new plan, because after holding Mr. South in custody for a while, the police had found no solid evidence against him and had to release him. Xavier said he didn't believe Mr. South was the killer anyway. He was the kind of person who wouldn't even step on a cockroach. Besides, during the 8th period when Maddie disappeared, Mr. South had been repairing the boys' bathroom window. Xavier could vouch for that because he had been hiding in the bathroom at the time, trying to unlock Maddie's phone. Claire also began to wonder who had filmed the video of her and Mr. Anderson, as all the clues were becoming more and more unclear. Then Nicole suddenly asked why Claire, who had once kept her distance from them, was now so eager to help. Was it because she was hiding guilt and trying to cover her tracks?
Chill.
No, you chill.
Her words made both Xavier and Claire uncomfortable, and Simon quickly stepped in to calm Nicole, as she hadn't lost control like this since Maddie's incident. But Nicole didn't listen to a single word of his comfort and stormed off in anger. This seemed to spark a bit of suspicion in Simon, but since she and Maddie had always been close friends, he didn't think too much of it.
Hey, guys.
Claire said they wanted to use this to report to the police that someone had smashed her car, which could very well be the same person who had harmed Maddie. She then distracted the sheriff at the front, while Xavier and Simon took the opportunity to slip into the evidence room at the station to look for clues. Sure enough, everything went smoothly, and 2 officers were sent to the school to check the situation, with Claire keeping the sheriff's attention, and since Sheriff Baxter was Xavier's father, meaning Xavier was very familiar with the station, they quickly slipped into the evidence room and found Maddie's belongings. To their surprise, Simon discovered the evidence had been tampered with, so he asked Xavier whether, when they found Maddie's footprints in the woods, they had discovered them together, or if Nicole had found them alone.
We split up in the woods. She was alone. Why?
This is not Maddie's boot print.
Meanwhile, Nicole, looking flustered, arrived at the school computer lab and pressured a student to give up their spot. When she saw a teacher approaching, she asked if deleting files from a computer meant there would be no backups. The teacher told her it wouldn't work that way. Every file was automatically saved every 3 minutes. Back at school, Simon found Maddie again and told her about Nicole fabricating the shoe print. Maddie refused to believe Nicole could be the killer, recalling that they had only ever had one disagreement. That was during a meal in the cafeteria. They couldn't agree on the food, causing Nicole to angrily eat alone. But it was a trivial matter, and Maddie had already apologized back then, so she couldn't imagine Nicole being the culprit. But given how the suspected killer kept changing, Simon felt they should still be cautious.
Let's not go after someone we care about until we have something real. If you're wrong, she will never forgive you.
After Simon left, Maddie went to Dawn, asking her to try hypnosis to help recover some of her memories. But despite their efforts, Maddie couldn't remember anything, and Dawn ended up recalling her own painful past instead, leaving them no choice but to give up. However, they didn't realize that this session of hypnosis had, in fact, had a slight effect on Maddie. Meanwhile, Claire and Xavier had found clues in Mr. South's room.
Hey, what do we know?
It turned out that the day Claire met with Mr. Anderson, Mr. South had passed by and recorded the encounter in the school's schedule, and that day happened to be the cheer squad's rehearsal.
Hey, you may want to talk to your friend Nicole. She was definitely there.
Later, after exams, Maddie went to Simon as usual, and he told her about it. They decided to confront Nicole. At that moment, Nicole was still in the computer lab deleting files, unaware she had already been exposed.
Don't bother, Nicole. We already know the truth.
Simon came straight to the point, asking Nicole why she had done it. Was it all because of that tiny disagreement over lunch? Nicole tried to hide the truth, but Simon kept pressing, threatening to take her to the police. Finally, Nicole broke down and confessed. She admitted she had filmed the video of Claire and Mr. Anderson and sent it to him to extort money. But she insisted she wasn't the one who hurt Maddie. She said she just needed the money because she had agreed with them to apply to the same university. Knowing from her teachers that she didn't have the grades to get in, she just wanted to stay close to Maddie and Simon. Her family couldn't afford to send her to the city she wanted, and when she happened to see Claire with Mr. Anderson that day, she recorded it and blackmailed him. Nicole swore that was all she had done, and she had no idea who had hurt Maddie.
I spent weeks thinking I was the reason she got hurt.
Hearing this, Simon was deeply moved, but his reason overcame emotion. He continued to ask Nicole where the money was now, because if the police knew Mr. Anderson didn't have it, they could clear his name. Nicole agreed to take them to where she had buried the money. As they walked through the hallway, Dawn called out to Maddie to apologize for not being able to help. Maddie simply comforted her briefly before leaving. Nicole led Simon to the woods where she had buried the money and began digging right away. But no matter how much they dug, there was nothing. The money had vanished. Meanwhile, in Maddie's room, Sandra held an envelope that looked stuffed with cash. She glanced at it twice before hastily hiding it in a drawer. When Maddie arrived, she saw them digging something up, and it seemed to trigger a memory.
You're being
But just then, Maddie suddenly saw a figure in black approaching through the woods. She tried to warn Simon, but no matter how loud she shouted, Simon couldn't hear her. Thankfully, Nicole spotted it too and alerted Simon, who assumed it was the killer and chased after the figure with a shovel.
Simon, don't! Don't! Please don't! Simon! Maddie! Leave me alone! Don't!
You okay? What's going on?
I need to talk to my mother. I think she may have killed me.
To find out if her mother really was the culprit, Maddie convinced Simon to sneak into her house to look for the money that had framed Mr. Anderson. Sure enough, after some effort, Simon found the envelope Sandra had hidden as he was about to leave.
Find it? That's why you're here, right? You said you needed Maddie's notebook.
Right, yes. I found it. Yeah, should head back to school.
He brought the envelope to Maddie. Inside was her necklace from when she was alive. Seeing this necklace, Maddie became more certain her mother might be the killer because she was wearing this necklace just before her encounter, but it disappeared afterwards. Now, the priority was to get her mother to the school and question her directly. Their homeroom teacher provided the perfect opportunity. Before her death, Maddie had written a paper that had just won first prize in the autumn essay competition. This gave Simon a reason to invite Sandra to the school. After Sandra arrived at the school, Simon tried to get some clues out of her. However, even with Maddie secretly helping him, he still couldn't get Sandra to talk. Sensing something was off, Sandra prepared to leave. Seeing the chance slipping away, Simon simply took out the necklace directly. Seeing the necklace, Sandra stopped in her tracks, but her expression wasn't anger, it was sorrow. Simon placed the necklace on the table and demanded to know if she was the one who killed Maddie. But Sandra was too heartbroken to speak, and Maddie, watching her mother's pain, moved closer to look at the necklace. She didn't expect that the moment she touched it, all her memories would come rushing back. It turned out that, on the day of the incident, Sandra had come to the school to find Maddie, and Maddie had taken her to the stairwell to talk. Sandra told Maddie they were moving to a new house because she had used Maddie's college fund to buy a house by the beach. Hearing that her college money was gone, Maddie became upset and was about to question her mother when the school bell rang. Not wanting to be seen by classmates, she brought her mother to the school boiler room, where she demanded that Sandra return the house and get her money back. But her mother, not entirely clear-headed, refused, and the disagreement between them grew intense. Seeing her mother like this, Maddie broke down. When her pleas failed, she threw the necklace her mother had given her back at her and declared she wanted to cut ties as mother and daughter. Sandra left with the necklace, while Maddie sat in the boiler room crying, knowing that her dream of going to college was gone. This also meant her mother was not the killer. Although they had both been in the boiler room, Sandra had left alone afterward. Once again, the trail went cold, and the killer's identity was no closer to being uncovered.
But she didn't murder me.
Then who did?
Meanwhile, Xavier went to the police station to speak to his father to clear Mr. South's name, telling him that on the day Maddie went missing, Mr. South had been with him in the boys' bathroom. But with the case dragging on, the sheriff wanted a resolution for the public and ignored his son's words. Frustrated, Xavier quietly took a photo of an address from his father's notebook before leaving. He then found Nicole and Claire, believing the address might hold new clues, and proposed they check it out together. Late at night, they drove to the location. Seeing the eerie house, Nicole wanted to call Simon for help, but Simon was at Maddie's award ceremony for her essay and didn't answer. With no choice, they went ahead, leaving Claire in the truck to keep watch while Xavier and Nicole searched the house. As they went room to room, Nicole noticed signs that someone had been living there recently, suggesting it could be the killer's residence. Meanwhile, in the truck outside, Claire spotted a figure in black slipping into the house. Fearing for Xavier and Nicole's safety, she rushed in and told Nicole what she saw. But just as they tried to leave, the door to their room slammed shut, and Claire began shouting for Xavier. Hearing her, Xavier ran toward them, but on the way, he ran straight into the person in black. After knocking Xavier down, the killer drove off in their truck. Fortunately, Nicole had recorded the whole thing on her phone. When she replayed the video, she couldn't believe her eyes and quickly sent it to Simon to confirm. After receiving the video, Simon immediately went to find Maddie, but he didn't take it out to show her right away. Instead, Maddie took the initiative to say that she had already come to terms with it, adding that no matter who the killer was, perhaps she shouldn't keep dwelling on it and dragging down her friends who were still alive. She wanted Simon and the others to stop investigating and let everything fade away. Touched but resolute, Simon showed her Nicole's video because the face of the killer captured was Maddie's own face.
Maybe you're just some coping mechanism that I created to put off the pain of losing you. But you're alive, and I lost my mind.
No.
Without listening to any explanation, Simon left the school. Maddie ran after him to explain, but she couldn't leave school grounds. So, the moment she stepped beyond the boundary, she was pulled back into the boiler room. As she entered the boiler room, she suddenly heard cries for help inside, and these cries triggered another memory. After her mother left, she heard someone calling for help in the boiler room and followed the voice to an iron door. She was just about to open it to see what was inside when...
You have to tell me, you have to... Don't...
I don't want to die too soon.
This time, it was the same cries for help, and Maddie once again came to the iron door, but unlike before, she couldn't open it. And trapped inside were Wally and the other spirits. Realizing it was Maddie, they revealed something terrifying. After Dawn was accidentally crossed over last time, they had begun to suspect that there might actually be a way for their spirits to leave the school. So they asked the oldest spirit there, Mr. Martin. But instead of answering, he angrily told them they were dreaming. Since he refused to help, they investigated on their own. What they found shocked them. Martin had lied about his cause of death for decades. He hadn't been wrongfully killed at all, but had staged his own death. All of this was because the school was built on top of an abandoned chemical testing facility, and Martin had accidentally discovered that he could use it to manipulate human spirits and trap them within the school grounds. He had chosen to die in order to gain more time for his work. In other words, he had been using the trapped spirits for secret experiments. Maddie had been killed because she accidentally discovered what was behind the iron door, and it was possible that the deaths of all the school's spirits were connected to him. Now Maddie was experiencing unexpected changes, and she might be the key to ending his experiment. But knowing this now was too late. Meanwhile, the figure in black who had escaped was at the bus station buying a ticket to leave the city. She too claimed to be Maddie.
It's Maddie.
You sit and stare, laying out my part in it.